patience, like Harvey was saying, having the patience to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
You know, not trying to have it happen first practice, but let them come together on their own.
It's tough to, and when you coach for a while, and I'm just starting to learn this now, when you coach for a while, you understand that that process does take place, but it's a lot slower than you wish it was. Yeah. Good thing.
Just a couple new ones that other groups haven't said. Tom kind of touched on this, but kids being pulled in so many directions and balancing that. And then she mentioned fairness, equity versus equality when you're, whether it's punishment or just what each kid needs. So.
Okay. And okay, so fairness and treating people with some equity.
Yes.
It's a tough thing to do. It's a tough thing to decide when a person needs this and a person needs that. Last thing. Nothing fresh for us?
Well, I basically said parents and the internet.
Parents and the internet.
Being a coach of an individual sport, and it's an Olympic year, so everyone's going to say, well, Michael Phelps did this to win the gold medal. We need to do this on your team, stuff like that. Because parents are always second guessing what your program is, and then they mentioned, working with individuals, doing one-on-one work, and trying not to show favoritism or anything, trying to get to everybody. I mean, on teams that are large, it's really difficult, and there are people that are more willing to come to you and ask for help than others, and so and then just building a team.
Building a team. Building a team. And so back to the parent thing too, like, why does it seem like parents are the toughest ones to get to buy in sometimes? Like, to me, that's been my experience to a great extent. Until they get to know you and trust you a little bit, it's really tough to get the parents to buy into stuff. I don't know this for sure, but I think all of this stuff kind of comes down to one general concept, and that is the concept of buy-in. Like, why is it so difficult to get people to buy into something? That's what I kind of want to dig into right now for the next half hour. I'll just throw that question out to you. It's not on your sheet. You don't get to write it. Well, you can write it now if you want to. But I just want to throw that question out to you right now. Just kind of anybody. If you have any thought about that, why is it so difficult to get someone to buy into a big dream, for example?
I think one of the biggest things, in my opinion, is as coaches, we see if you have 80 kids on your team, for instance, there are 80 kids, they're my kids, 80 kids. Parents see one. And they don't think in terms of everybody else. When they go watch a game, they watch one kid. If they watch someone else's to tear them down, to build up their own, it seems like a lot. And so their main focus is just one person. We're working with all of them. And it's hard to get them on the same page.
Awesome.
I don't think they intend to, but it just has to, in my opinion.
Awesome. So would you say to a certain extent maybe it comes down to a little bit to trust? They don't necessarily trust you, and they don't necessarily believe that you have what's the best interest for their kids?
I think sometimes they have a vision of what they want their kid to go on, and if it's different from, if I don't fit into it, then
Yeah, they have a vision. They don't necessarily, it doesn't coincide with your vision.
so there's a problem. That you
So they don't trust, they don't believe in you, really.
It's hard to build. They get two messages, and no kid's going to tell mom and dad are right.
Kids get conflicting messages. Craig,
Well, along with that, I think that, especially in a multiple sport athlete type thing, unless you are that number one sport for that kid, you might be asking expectations or commitments of a kid where they are not going to buy in totally because it's not their number one thing.
they can.
So even though it's your season or your opportunity to improve for the next year, you're bumping heads with time and commitment to the other programs that they're involved in and what have you. And it's just it's a catch-22.
Yeah. And to a certain extent, my experience has been they don't necessarily, their sport, so I know you're a wrestling coach, I'm a wrestling coach too. Their sport is not wrestling, right, necessarily. They might, that's not their sport. And you can, you know, beg and plead and punch and scream and kick as much as you want, but it's going to be tough to get them to believe that, hey, wrestling is the way that you're going to develop into the kind of person that you need to develop into. It's kind of tough to get them to really buy into that because they're already bought into something else sometimes. Jeremy, right?
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback on Mark. Part of the problem, I think, is our youth sports are so local that, you know, I'm starting to, I have younger kids now. I've been coaching a while now. I have younger kids going through the youth process. And I think it's starting to shift back again where there's a positive coaching alliance and stuff Tim talks about and doing this stuff. It's changing that again, but for so long, I think youth sports have been this place where how can you not be scarred and jaded as a parent going through that process and expect them to, they don't really disseminate the difference between high school, we're playing basketball again. I don't trust it, you know what I mean? I've been through this process, it's hard to trust that, I've been told to trust things and I feel like I've gotten a raw deal and things have gone because of.
You've been trained to a certain extent. When you've done it what you think is the right way, you get whipped for that.
Right.
So you get trained. Eventually, I'm not going to act that way. This is how I'm going to act. That's how parents get trained. They're like, well, I'm just going to sit back and leave it to the coach. Well, sometimes those youth coaches might not have, they might not understand. Plus, a lot of those youth coaches have their own kid on the team. So all of a sudden, you sit back and you let that youth coach do what that youth coach is going to do, but then you're punished for that. So then you get trained. You say, by the time you see them as high school coaches, you have these parents that are, good word, jaded. They're kind of they've already had that experience. And now you got to get a kid to buy into you, and their parents are saying, no, you need to look out for number one, right? And the kids get this conflicted message, and you got to get them to believe in a course. You got to get them to believe in a path. How do you do that? Their beliefs are already this. How do you get them to a new set of beliefs? Go ahead.
I think we have empowered parents an awful lot. I think a lot of our traveling programs and those kinds of sports, they have so much, they bought in already, and they believe that they have a lot of knowledge that they can offer to the program. And that leadership part of actually, you know, taking those athletes and bringing them in and doing things with them is awesome. But then they'll go back home and they'll deal with dad or mom who was the traveling coach for 8 years, and they're going to say, well, this has worked all along. We do it in the classroom also, you know, bringing parents into doing more things and utilizing them. As a coach who did not do that for probably 20 years, it was a lot easier. But you can't get away with that today. You have to include them, so you got to get them to also buy into what you're trying to sell. And that's a harder one.
That's a tough communication piece.
Kids are easier.
Yeah.
So,
Because you have the kids here,
yeah.
really. And let's face it, I mean, you know, like it or not, agree with it or not, coaches have a ton of power. You know, I've heard a few speakers say, I want to say it's the inside-out coaching guy. Herman, is that his name? You want to talk about a power imbalance. Probably the most prominent power imbalance in our country today is the imbalance between the power that a kid has and their coach has. And so you have a ton of power. That kid, you know, like it or not, hopefully, you know, all of us in this room, I'm guessing because you're here, you understand and you respect that power, but we have a ton of power over the kid. Not so much over the parent.
I was going to say, I think I look at it a little the opposite way. I think the coach has to buy into the kid. And I'll give you an example. We just had one of the girls players was debating whether she was going to play this year, right? We as a staff were like, she's going to be really help our team. And anyway, she's decided to play. And met with her person, and this is how I work. I mean, I just met with her. I said, hey, you're back, and it's great, but why are you back? And I think for me, it's if I know what motivates them and what their interests are. This girl is not, this is not her number one sport. Fine. I can still ask her to tinker with the game on occasion. She's a great athlete.
And that takes getting to know each kid.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing.
And what you're talking about, you know, you talk about kids coming with their own ideas. Can you imagine? I mean, one of the guys I'm always been fascinated with is Phil Jackson, you know, many-year NBA superstar coach. Because think of you think our kids have ideas? What do you think Kobe Bryant has?
Yeah, exactly.
Or Michael Jordan,
Yeah.
guys who've had phenomenal success when they walk in their locker room. They already know how they want to play. And you're not going to change them. You're not going to, unless you're a freak like Phil, you're going to influence them. But you better know what's under their hood and how to utilize their things.
You gotta get to know them.
And when if you truly make that investment, then the kids will buy in because they know you're interested in them.
I thought I saw a hand back here.
I was just gonna say that our problem, or at least the struggle we're having right now with buy-in goes back to trust and instability. Parents more so have to trust, you know, it's a new coach that's taking over a program to build, and that takes a while to build a program anywhere, but the parents have seen so much up and down that, you know, they're expecting the coach to walk away again, and so they hear a new philosophy, a new
We've seen
idea,
this
a new
before.
goal. So it's, right now is nope, I'm here, this is what I want to do, and I will get you there, but I need you to trust that I can do that, and that's, you know, the parents are harder than the girls are.
It takes a shift in the mindset of, and where that shift happens is probably going to be different for each kid. That's a tough one there. Eventually, they're going to come to a place where they can trust you, but it's going to take some time. They have to see you as being trustworthy before they're going to trust you. That's a tough one. I honestly think that a lot of what we're talking about right now, I love this, belief in the kid. We got to believe in the kid. And we got to believe that the kid can come around to your way of seeing things, right? And if you have that, leaders have that belief. I think that the research shows that leaders believe that. If you don't believe that, if you don't have that belief, I would suggest that you're struggling as a leader. Typically, leaders and coaches and teachers believe that people can change. I was talking with Adam just a little bit before